Hello, this is from Caracas. I'm Ray Gomez. Not much has been said on the communes by the international media here in Venezuela, but the communes do exist in the South American country. So on this, I will talk with Cira Pascual Marquina. Please join us for the next few minutes. Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Fine, thank you. For the audience to understand what we are talking about, what is a commune?
Well, perhaps we could take a brief historical view on how the commune comes about.
Yes.
In 2006, Chavez, on his electoral path, re-election, he proposes to build a socialist homeland.
Yes.
And in that moment, there were a lot of grassroots organizations, comités de tierra urbana, committees of urban land, also self-organization in terms of water, distribution, etc. And after that, a couple of years later, Chavez proposes that there should be self-organization in consejos comunales, or communal councils, which were grassroots, small territorial grassroots organizations. By 2009, Chavez, I believe, develops what is the Venezuelan way towards socialism, which is the commune. In a very important speech in that year, which is the Aló Presidente Teórico número uno, number one, the theoretical Aló Presidente, he basically develops a framework on how to organize this transition towards socialism. Because socialism, we can say a few broad things about the project, no? That's a profoundly democratic way of reorganizing the economy and the society, could be a brief description, but how do you get there?
Yes.
Chavez was a great strategist, and basically he develops, I believe, this particular concept of how to transit towards socialism, which is the commune. And what is the commune? Basically, the commune is several consejos comunales, or communal councils, but it goes beyond the sum of some territorial grassroots organization. It basically proposes to construct or to affirm popular power. And we could ask, what is popular power? Well, I would say that popular power is people empowering themselves, self-organizing, with autonomy from a state that was still bourgeois, as Chavez would say, and organizing production based on social property, not on private property, which is obviously private property being the basis for the organization of production in capitalism, and social property being the center of a democratic socialist organization of the economy.
Can we say that the communes are autonomous?
Well, actually that's a very interesting question, because in this speech that I was mentioning, the theoretical Aló Presidente number one in 2009, in which Chavez talks about the commune, he says that there shouldn't be a Cartesian conception over reality and over the communes. The Cartesian perspective over reality is that you divide up reality and you understand it by understanding this little piece or that little piece, and then the sum, well, that is obviously a very limited conception of reality. So obviously there is, in terms of the commune, an objective to overcome the commune itself through the communal state, which would be the future objective of society. But let's say that there is a level of emancipation from the state, or of autonomy from a state, because many times...
Even if the state is a socialist state?
Well, here's the thing. Chavez, even in 2012, in the Golpe de Timón, in the steer of the helm speech that he gave, which is the last, let's say, the last great speech that he leaves us, he says that we have a bourgeois state. He says that we still haven't overcome. He recognizes that. And of course, President Maduro has recognized it as well. So the truth is that we have a bourgeois state with a revolutionary or progressive government. So yes, there is there should be a level of autonomy between the communes and this state, and the commune is precisely the path through which to overcome this state, which still privileges the minority, the bourgeoisie, over the majority, which is us, the ones who are committed with building a just society, a socialist society.
By the way, author Marco Turigi has said, quote, "A commune does not make socialism, nor thousands of communes make socialism, but a process of communal grouping towards a communal government at the level of state is an advance." Quote, does this mean that the more communes there are in Venezuela, the more guarantees will have socialism to remain as an ideology of state in this country?
Well, first I would say that socialism is not an ideology of a state, but it's the ideology of the working people.
You're right.
Of the people, of the working class, let's say. And yes, I would agree with Marco Teruggi. Let's say that communes themselves do not overcome the logic of capitalism, while the logic itself endures in a society. So what I would say is that this radical form of democracy and of reorganization of society is a path towards socialism to the degree that there's a displacement of capitalism in the society. In this moment in Venezuela, there are both, let's say that the main form of organization of economy is capitalist still. There's an objective of construction of socialism, and there's small-scale pre-socialist spaces, which are the communes. Now, the sum of communes with planification from a socialist state or from a communal state, with the association through different forms of organizing politics, is what is our, from my point of view, our path towards socialism. So I cannot, in the Venezuelan case, I cannot separate socialism from the commune. This is the Venezuelan way, right? Every country has its particularities.
You're right.
And other, for instance, with the radical, let's say, violent ruptures from capitalism that were done in the Cuban Revolution or in the Soviet Revolution, there were other processes that took place. But by the way, I would say that even, for instance, in the Soviet Revolution, prior to the actual Soviet Revolution, there were the Soviets, the councils of workers and soldiers and campesinos who organized and took control of the means of production and also did self-defense, defense of the common. So let's say that in that sense, if you look at the Soviet case, at the Russian Soviet case, you can see how these spaces of self-organization were also important prior to the actual taking of power in October of 1917. So in the Venezuelan case, the commune is central, and is central also because in the way that it creates new forms of democracy that overcome liberal or bourgeois democracy, people become direct participants of the organization of their life in all, from the affective to the economic to the educational, social, etc.
There is, I guess, a diversity of communes according to their production line, I mean, according to their goals. Could you mention any examples?
Sure. There are indeed, a commune basically self-organizes for production, and there's rural and there's urban communes. And they are quite different. And of course, in different parts of the country, they produce different things. I can tell you two cases that I know well. One is a rural commune, La Commune al Maizal. The Maizal commune, Maizal is a corn grove.
Okay.
In Lara. And this is a space, an extraordinary space where they produce tons and hundreds of thousands of tons of corn, where the people from the nearby towns organize also to produce cattle, and they have a pig stove, and they have a multiplicity of producing spaces, of production spaces, excuse me. So that's really interesting, and that they have, one thing that's important about the commune is that not only is the property social, but also the accident is let's say the community decides collectively how the accident is going to be used.
Mm-hmm.
So that happens in Lara, and there is a case in Caracas that I know too. It's a commune in 23 de Enero and Comuna El Panal, and it's a commune that it's actually grown. It actually goes beyond Caracas at this moment, but let's say that when it started, basically it initiated with an organization that's called Alexis Vive, and this organization started to do raffles and different small initiatives to self-sustain, and then they gave the jump to the commune, and they have an empacadora. I wonder how you would call that, to pack
yes,
rice,
right.
And basically a small factory to pack rice, sugar, etc.
They have packing factory.
Exactly, packing factory. They have a panaderia, bakery, they have a restaurant, they have different initiatives which are, and they have a textileria. They produce purses, clothes, etc.
Interesting.
So they have a diversified production. Now, for the last couple of years, they've actually started to go to, they have some land that where they are producing too. But let's say that that's the particularity of an urban commune, where obviously it's production, but it's not direct production of food. One thing that is important that I would like to underline is that one of the ways to make sure that the communes are not, let's say, islands of pre-socialism here and there, which was something that, by the way, worried Chavez. He didn't want these islands separated. A couple of things is that there has to be planification, state planification, so that the communes do not depend on the capitalist market to sustain themselves. There has to be what we now call encadenamiento, a chaining.
Chaining, yes.
It sounds ugly, but basically there have to be links between the communes, so that the communes don't have to, for instance, in the case of this commune in Caracas, in 23 de Enero, to get the raw material, they have to go to the capitalist market. So you don't break with the capitalist economy. And one of the important things, one of the big pending tasks to advance in relation to the communes is to make this encadenamiento, this chaining, so that producers of raw materials can exchange with other producers, urban producers, etc.
Speaking on Chavez's thinking, during the presentation of his Homeland Plan 2013 and 2019, he said that the commune should become the basis of the productive organization in Venezuela. Why hasn't this goal been achieved yet? Who are the enemies of the communes?
Well, it's not easy for any society to transition. By the way, one of the important lemmas of Chavez was Commune or nada, commune or nothing, which points to what you're saying. So why hasn't it advanced so much, which is the truth? I mean, there are spectacular experiences that really have to be reivindicated and supported. But they continue to be islands. So I could say that there is a multiplicity of reasons. One, that we continue to have a state, and I separate the state from government, a state that privileges the logic of capital. A state that, for instance, in this crisis, continues to subsidize capitalist production through multiple mechanisms that are old mechanisms that precede the Bolivarian process. And perhaps some people in the bureaucracy will say, well, people need to eat, and we know that if we foster capitalist production, the capitalist will produce, which is actually false, because capitalists are basically legal thieves, and they will invest a bit in the production or in the importation of whatever, and another part they will keep, and that's all actually legal. in capitalism, in any capitalist society. So there's that issue that the state still has its own old logic. I would also say that the whole economic crisis has taken the government to focus on immediate results, which is understandable. But the truth is that immediate results are not going to transform society, and the only way to get out of this very difficult situation which Venezuela lives is having an objective that is strategic and that goes beyond the, let's say, the solution of tomorrow's and the day after tomorrow's problems.
Could the communes become an alternative to confront the economic war that hits Venezuela nowadays?
Absolutely, yes. I think they are the way not only towards socialism but to overcoming the actual crisis. Capitalism goes in crisis. I mean, the crisis of capitalism is not, let's say, like a problem that presents itself because there was some bad gestion, bad policies. Actually, crises of capitalism do happen every so often. So, given that that's a fact, and given that we have a proposal, a legacy from Chavez, which is socialism and through the commune, I think that the commune is the one that will break with all the economical cerco, the economical sabotage that goes on in Venezuela. Obviously, the dominating class, the bourgeoisie, does not have an affinity with the government, so they will sabotage, if they can, this project. So, but the people are not interested in sabotaging their own life. The people are the ones who suffer. We, the common people, we are the ones who suffer the crisis. So who better to solve the crisis than those who suffer the crisis? I think that is really the only way. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's, obviously there's been many difficulties in making the communes, there's, I remember a friend saying that it's easier to get to Mars than to make socialism. So I'm not, I would be lying if I said it was an easy thing, but definitely I believe the commune is the path under the current crisis that we live in Venezuela.
There is a Ministry of Communes in Venezuela. How does this institution work?
Well, there is a law of communes too, although a law does not transform society, right? Like a law is something that can help you transform a society, like
a guide.
Yeah, like a guide or like a cane or...
A cane, yeah.
But people transform society, not
You're
laws.
right, absolutely.
So, but there is a law of communes, which is from 2010, and the law of 2010 states basically that the institution that regulates communes is the Ministry of Communes. Basically, a commune can be spontaneous, and a commune can happen because a bunch of people get together and through a democratic process decide to self-organize in a commune. But in Venezuela, one of the very positive things is that Chavez tried to commit the state to support, economically support the construction of communes. So basically, the Ministry of the Communes is the mediator between the state and the communes. It organizes, it regulates, and it funds. It provides the funding, which comes from, well, basically it comes from the state, from the oil rent, but is channeled through the commune ministry.
Why don't we read much on the communes in the daily press? Not only here in Venezuela, but...
Yeah, which is basically what you were forming in the beginning. Yes. It's true, I would say in both places you don't hear much about it. Well, it's, to me it's obvious why the hegemonic international mass media does not cover the communes. Basically, they are committed to finishing this project.
So they are not interested in...
Yes, it would be... Yeah, it would be, because the communes, I really think that anybody who has a chance has to go to a commune and see this radical democracy and reorganization of the economy that happens there. So obviously it's not interesting for them to cover it. Now, why is it in our media not more covered? Well, I could become repetitive. I would say that we have many problems, which are immediate problems, and they seem to override the strategic objective in this moment. I think that has to be changed. I think that it will change. I'm sure that as we, let's see, put our feet hard on the floor, on the ground, we will start running, and we will go for the commune in this process, because the people are committed to a better life, a better communal life. And there's something very interesting about Venezuelan culture, which is that Venezuelan culture is very social, very communal, without talking about communes, very communal. Venezuelan, like a centerpiece of Venezuelan culture, for instance, is the callapa. What is the callapa? When a bunch of neighbors get together and, I don't know, clean the street, and they have a fiesta while they clean the street, and they make a sancocho, which is like a big pot where one neighbor puts the chicken and the other neighbor puts the potatoes, etc., etc. So communally, there's a solution to a problem, and it's both a solution and a party, like a space for socializing and rejoicing. So I think in that respect that in our future, because I am convinced that the Venezuelan people are committed to a better common future, and because there are these particular experiences which are not from the present but from the past, from a past which was communal.
Right.
I mean, I'm talking about a pre-capitalist past. Then I think our future is the commune and the communal state. It's the only way that we will survive, I believe.
What does it happen to be a day-by-day life in commune?
Well, it's not that it varies from commune to commune, of course, but there's the production, which is when you have, in capitalism, you have social production, which is that we all have to work to make the things that we need to survive. But the appropriation is individual. The appropriation of the excellent is individual. So in the communes, the appropriation is collective, and there is processes of taking the decision collectively of what to do with that excellent. There is work, social work with this social retribution. There's the assemblies can be regular, very long, very taxing, of course, where, you know, like where a community of 100 or 500 people or 2,000 people decide what to do with something. You have to meet in assemblies where you vote on decisions, and that can be actually very difficult, but very rewarding. So I would say that they are very beautiful, very complicated, and extremely creative, but potentially creative spaces for the society.
If the social group wants to create a commune, what steps should be followed? I mean, is there a methodology to create a commune?
Well, first of all, to create a commune that is recognized by the Ministry of Communes, you have to have several consejos comunales or communal councils, which are these local grassroots organizations for solving problems, which could be like lighting problems or trash problems. Several of them get together, and through the assembly they decide how they are going to, what is their objective. They have to choose their voceros or their spokespeople. Well, first of all, they have to organize the process of election, where you don't choose representatives, but you choose spokespeople, people who transmit what the community. You don't delegate on them, but they actually have to do what the community decides. And so through this process, the community organizes, and they do the elections, and eventually they put the papers in through the Ministerio, and the Ministerio recognizes and gives it a number and so on. Now, that's a technicality. The most important thing is the space of self-organization, the space of encounter, where the people not only, I would say, decide on how to self-govern and self-produce, but also often how to self-defend, which is, for instance, in rural spaces, in communes that were in land that were expropriated from the expropriators, from terratenientes, from big landowners that had the land, that were not using the land.
Right.
Those communes have to prepare for self-defense because the terratenientes, the old landowners, are actually very violent and have killed in the last few years more than 200 campesinos who have participated in these spaces of taking the land. So yeah, I guess I would say that those are elements that are key.
Well, Cira, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
On the communes in Venezuela, we have been talking with Cira Pascual Marquina. Thank you for being with us. Goodbye.